new front porch, new rear deck, new hammerhead and parking area, new fence and gates, removal of impervious coverage. Okay. Could I have a motion to open the hearing?
Second.
Okay, public hearing is open. Okay. John, it's all you.
Okay, John G. Scarlett Jr., architect for the Millers. Unfortunately, the Millers couldn't be here this evening. Anyway, so the house is on North Ridge Street, so it's in the scenic overlay district, which is one of the things triggering the variances. I'm gonna show you the pictures. Right now it's a ranch house with a walkout basement, so that's the front. It's a rather narrow house. And that's the side. That's the other side, and then you're going down, and then the back actually has a walkout basement, which is basically the garage. So then that's the house. Really? They don't have more? There you go. So that's the neighbor's house. Okay. So what are we planning to do? Okay, so.
John, excuse me for interrupting. They took the hammerhead off, right?
The hammerhead's, right, we reduced the variances from the planning board.
Okay,
So
yeah, just wanted to.
hammerhead's gone in the front yard, so we lost the front yard parking. We moved the deck over to line up with the non-conforming side yard setback, so the deck is as of right. So we still have a height setback on the left side of the house because the house is supposed to be 10 feet off the property line, and it's like 7. So we need our 2.8 single side yard setback on the left side of the house. And we need our height setback and a front yard setback for the porch and the second floor on the front, because the scenic overlay district makes our 30-foot front yard setback 45. So the line goes through the house. And if I blow up you can kind of see this through on the site plan. So we're adding a front porch to make the house look more attractive. We're across from Crawford Park. It just makes sense. And then right now, so the setback line with the 45 feet is going through the house. And then our 10-foot setback line is going through that part of the house. So the house is already too close to the left. It's actually conforming to the front yard setback before the scenic overlay district, which makes it not conform. And the deck is, at the moment, as of right. We originally were trying to do a hammerhead in the front yard to pull out, but what we did is we did the hammerhead at the bottom of the driveway, and we just made a little bit more parking here on the
John, what is the height setback exactly? How does that
So if I
work
go
in
to the
here?
first floor, if I go to the first page,
About the side yard?
it's on the left side.
I guess my question is going to be, what does the requested variance actually mean in terms of the height?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you if I can get to that.
In other words, how low would it have to be without
Well, we
creating a
got an
variance?
objection letter, which primary objection relates to the height. So
Well,
I'm
it's the
curious
height-
what the variance is relevant to that.
They're relating, right, so the complaint is from the neighbor behind that the house is too tall because it has a walkout basement. So if you look at this picture here. Yeah, okay, let me.
It's a side, right? The
Right.
one-
So this is, you have a height angle from the property line, from the average grade. So the average late grade property line cuts through the house like that. So this is our height setback, is this corner of the house. Now, the zoning board, the planning board did ask us to look at trying to get rid of it. So I can actually go back, and they had wanted us to look at getting rid of took us an extra month. We went back the following month, and we ended up doing this to eliminate the height setback ratio.
Which is this?
And the porch. Which is pulling the house back on the left side. So what we did is we pulled the second floor back. We overhung the floor on this side, because this house is only like 24 feet wide, so it's really not a big house to like just lop square footage off, and we're trying not to change the footprint. So what we did was we moved the second floor over the 2 feet so that we didn't have a height setback ratio, and then we moved the porch over and the deck over so that we didn't have any side yard setback issues, and we're just dealing with the front. But everybody decided that it looked really bad.
Who's
Every-
everybody?
Everybody being you?
Yeah.
No, the planning board and the building inspector and everybody kind of looked at that and like, if we're driving by that, like, it's not real attractive looking. So everybody was kind of like, for what we're asking for, if we go back to the other one, like, for that little angle, nobody's gonna drive down North Ridge Street and say, oh my God, that looks like they got a variance.
So I guess the question that I'm curious about, do any of these variances affect the height of the house in relation to the letter that was received?
Right, so what? I mean,
So I think the letter, though, if I read it correctly,
Well, I mean, I
it
know,
was,
like,
what, John, 1 second.
so the deck-
What I think, what I remember is the height was a concern because of being a high-rise, but I think the other concern wasn't necessarily the height, was the deck. That would
The deck overlook, right.
Right.
There's
That's two things,
there's
right,
two
right,
issues.
okay.
Well, because they're downhill, so I get it,
Right.
but there are trees between them. But so, our variance is, this is our height variance, this is what they're complaining about the height. We're talking about that corner. We're talking about that corner, that's what we need a variance for. The rest of it's out of the right, so if we had cut the house back like that, right, like the other one did, and overhung it, we wouldn't need that. But it's this angle that we're,
But it's not making a big difference in
Yeah,
terms of the visible height.
right. So-
Right,
so
the height would almost be the same.
It's gonna be
right?
basically the same.
Right.
The deck we did pull in so we don't line up with the edge of the house, so the deck is totally as of right. So we're not even
Okay.
here to, in theory, discuss the deck, because they can do the deck. So we have the height setback on this side, and then we have our front yard setback for the porch. Right, we have our front yard setback, which is 45 feet, and we're at 30. So the porch would be at 34 feet, and so we needed 10.6 for the front yard setback, because the scenic overlay, and that's the scenic overlay district, just changing our front yard setback from,
But the house is already
the
over.
house is already non-conforming because of the.
At
scenic-
what?
Okay, so right now, the existing house. The proposed is a 34.5, right? The front yard setback there. This needs 10.6, so what's the existing house, was that 41.6? Is where the existing front of the house was. We're adding a 6-foot front porch to the front of the house, which is making it worse than on the second floor it aligns with the existing non-conforming house.
So the width of that is 6 feet going out?
Yes.
Does that conform to your Scarlato rule of thumb of how
Yeah,
much
so
space
can
you
sit on the
need?
porch and actually put some furniture and actually sit, yes,
Yeah.
as opposed to like.
I'm
4
gonna
foot
name
porch.
that the Scarlato rule of thumb, okay? based on your past presentation.
I like to make things that are functional.
Can you put up the back view again? You know, I basically want to see what the neighbor is going to be looking at, the number of windows that are on the second floor.
I mean, his concern was more is what they're gonna be looking at into their home. Because apparently according to the letter, from the porch, you can look right into their home and so on.
But the
Well,
second,
because they're on a hill, so,
Yeah.
right, so,
so the second story, those are the windows you have back there, right? The 3 windows?
right, so this is the master bedroom with 2 windows looking out the back.
Right.
This is the master bath, and that's the dining area, and that's the kitchen.
And the height, the height of those, that view?
I mean, the height of that,
I mean, there's things as of right, which I certainly will not deny.
right.
I'm just trying to get into the head of what the problem is with respect to the invasion of privacy.
Well, I mean,
I mean, I
they're
think
used-
the
they're
problem
used-
is
they're used to a
simply
smaller
how-
house behind them.
Also, how this landscape, everybody up on Ridge is higher than
Then they are.
you know, it's just.
Everybody's gonna be
But
that
the problem is if every house along that stretch builds up, then.
Well, the other ones are
Oh,
already, the other
yeah.
ones are already
Yeah.
well, I mean, the one to the right of them is a split, so part of it's a 2-story, and the other one to the left is a split, so it's already 2-story. So, with a walkout basement, so the one to the left is a split with a walkout basement, so,
Yeah, but to some degree, it's just the nature of how
yeah,
the landscape is.
right,
Yeah.
right. You're just, they're lower, it's higher. There are trees between the houses, like bigger, older ones. It's really hard to add more stuff because like arborvitae's isn't really gonna
It's very tight.
solve the problem, because they're gonna be, you know, for a while, because it's the terrain.
Anyone have any other questions? of
So
the audience?
you had explained, so it's just that little corner piece?
Yes.
So,
On the height issue.
On the
Right.
height issue.
But that's not addressing the concern.
no.
Correct.
So, you know, I'm
But
looking
that,
at.
but that's what you're giving the variance
Yeah,
on, is that
that's
corner,
my
not
point.
the whole back of the house.
Exactly. So that's what I want to
Right,
make
right.
sure.
So what you're giving the variance on isn't really where the windows are and really isn't the whole.
Right.
Exactly.
That was what I was
Exactly.
asking.
Exactly. And, okay, any other questions of the architect? Okay, there is a letter, well, anyone want to speak in the audience, want to speak in favor of the application? Okay, anyone want to speak against the application? Okay, we do have one letter submitted from the folks on Valley Terrace, so I'm going to just quickly read it. Good morning, we are the Carrick family and live at 46 Valley Terrace, the home behind 123 North Ridge Street. The home will be up for review at the May 8th meeting regarding its construction project. We would like to address the second floor addition as well as the back deck off the middle floor. The project that is intended will be overlooking our backyard and our privacy. Although we do have some trees in between our property and the extended addition and deck will give direct views into our backyard as well as into our great room and kitchen. We also feel the house will be very high from our vantage point, and we will be looking into a high-rise building. We would like to lodge a formal disagreement with the proposed plans being submitted for the second floor addition, which will look like a third floor and deck. Unfortunately, we will not be able to attend the meeting since our daughter is graduating from college on May 8th. Today is May 6th. Okay, that's the letter. And basically, as you can see, we've been addressing that. Anyone else want to speak against the application in the audience? Okay, motion to close the
So moved.
public hearing? Second. Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, we have a situation where we are going to be going by the 5 rules that we're required to do. And we have the neighbor's objection. We're dealing with a situation where the bulk standards are in question, namely the scenic road overlay. So let's just knock them off one by one. Does anyone have a problem with the scenic road overlay issue?
No.
Okay? For the benefit of the viewing audience, may not know it, certain roads in Rye Brook are designated scenic road overlays, which means they have a more restrictive front yard setback than the typical requirement in Rye Brook. Those mainly King Street, Lincoln Avenue, and Ridge Street. And so when the board looks at a variance on the scenic road overlay, it tries to determine whether or not it will impact the character of the neighborhood adversely. And evidently, based on what we've heard, the board does not feel that that will be the case in this situation. Okay, the second one has to do with the height setback ratio on the side. I think Joe brought up the issue. Does it impact that at all? No, I personally don't think it's a problem in this particular case. Anyone comment on it? Okay. And the third variance is the single side yard setback is 10 feet. The proposed second story will align with the existing non-conforming side yard setback of 7.9. So it's not impinging any more on the side yard setback, so the only issue is when you go up, does that rise in the height have any material adverse impact on what we're going to be looking at on the side yard? I don't have a problem with it. Anyone else?
That's why we have the height setback requirements. So.
Exactly. So, based on that, would you agree that it is self-created?
Yes.
Based on what we've seen, there doesn't appear to be any environmental issues. The question then, is this the smallest variance possible? The architect made the case that they did look at it. Planning board looked at it. Planning board was not too happy with a proposed design. Therefore, it reverted to the present design, which is before us. So I think that we could argue safely that that was the smallest possible variance allowable in that situation. All agree?
Yes.
Okay, having said that, let me go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Kevin Miller and Emily Miller, collectively the applicants, for variances in connection with the construction of a second-story addition, new front porch, new rear deck, new hammerhead, and parking area, gates, and the associated removal of impervious coverage at property located at 123 North Ridge Street in an R10 zoning district, approximately 220 feet from the intersection of Ridge Boulevard and North Ridge Drive, designated and shown on the tax map of the Village of Rye Brook as parcel ID number 135.59-1-34, whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rye Brook Code. First, Section 250-21, Section I, Part 2, the maximum allowable side height setback ratio is 2.4 for the property. The proposed second-story addition will result in a side height setback ratio of 2.8, thereby requiring a side height setback ratio of 0.4. Secondly, Section 250-22, Section G, Part 2, Item A. The minimum required single side yard setback is 10 feet. The proposed second-story addition will align with the existing non-conforming single side yard setback of 7.9 feet. Therefore, a single side yard setback variance of 2.1 feet is requested. Third variance, Section 250-7, Part F, Section 6, Item B. The minimum required front yard setback within the scenic road overlay district is 45 feet. The proposed second-story addition and new front porch will result in a front yard setback of 34.5 feet, thereby requiring a front yard setback variance of 10.6 feet. Whereas the resolution, the applicants were referred to the Zoning Board of Appeals pursuant to Village Code Section 179-12, following review by the Village of Rye Brook Planning Board on March 13th, 2025 and April 10th, 2025. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held by the Zoning Board of Appeals on May 6, 2025, and closed on May 6, 2025, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, and upon considering each of the factors set forth at Section 250-13, Section G, Part 2, Item 2, Sections A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds for the variances above. The requested variances will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefits the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicants to pursue that does not require the variances. 3, the variances are substantial. 4, the requested variances will not create any adverse impact to the environmental or physical conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variance is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicants have paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay, my only concern is, do we want to condition the portico not being built upon in the future, as we have in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay, so Bob, can you, off the top of your head, say something intelligent so that we can put it in the resolution?
John, are your people amenable to that?
Yeah. I think if they ain't closed, it'd have to come back anyway, but.
Yes, it's double, it's belt and suspenders.
Yeah, that's fine.
And where was the portico concerned?
No building above the portico.
Above the extended
All right,
porch.
so the applicant shall not build a portico. In the event they do, they would have to return to the zoning board of appeals.
Above the portico.
Correct.
Okay, yes. Okay, that sounds good to me.
And you also wanna make sure that doesn't get enclosed.
Yes.
You wanna make sure the portico stays open. If you want belt and suspenders.
Okay, sound good? We haven't done that. Yeah, okay, add that. We'll add that. Oh, John, okay. Having said that,
Come back anyway, but.
we'll vote, yes. For the benefit of the public, what you just heard was, they're already at their limit, and if they were to have to come back, if they wanted to put a second area above the portico, they would have to come back anyway. But historically, we've been proposing, or we're adding to the resolution, that you not build above that in the future. Makes it even harder for them, because we now have a record that the board did not want movement above that. So future boards will see that.
Also, you said not enclosed also, right?
Yes. Okay, Steve,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved, 5 yeses, 0 nays. Congratulations. Okay. All right. Okay, moving right along. Our next application is ZBA 25-007, Howard Miller and Melissa Miller, 4 Rock Ridge Drive. Expand driveway and widen parking area in front yard, remove steps at driveway, and reconfigure entry steps with retaining wall. Wow, look who's here.
There you go. Okay, so 4 Rockridge Drive is at the end of the cul-de-sac, and right now it's a single lane driveway with the garage under the house. And the issue is, it's a small driveway. Their kids are gonna be driving soon. They have 2 cars. You gotta move the cars back and forth. If they get another car for a kid or 2, it's gonna be a problem. You can't park at night. You can't park in the winter on the road. So, we're doing work to the house, and one of the things they wanna do is address the driveway issue. So, a lot of houses have.
While John is thinking about that, can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Public hearing is open.
I don't have to repeat everything, right?
No, I'm doing that for the benefit of.
So moved retroactively.
Okay. So the way the property is.
I take back your mastery
I
of the
know you do,
computer.
like jinxed me, like that just, at least I was admitted that I wasn't that good with the computer. Okay, so the way the property line is, right at the edge of the current driveway is actually the property line. So their property angles out this way, so if we were trying to widen the driveway to the left of the house, which could get us beyond the 25-foot setback, we still can't get a car in, and you can't move the cars around. You could stack cars, but the problem is they can stack cars now, and the problem is you can't jockey the cars around because your lane is only one lane. So what we're proposing to do is move this retaining wall to the other side of the stairway and have the stairs come straight down from the front door into like a walkway with the driveway to the left of it. But then we've created parking in our 25-foot front yard. So that's why we're here tonight, is to try to get a variance to move the retaining wall to the right with a new set of stairway coming down to the driveway area. And then they can park cars next to each other.
It's very tight, extremely tight, right now. And that retaining wall is that the stone wall that's there now, right? That's, you said that's gonna be moved.
It's gonna be moved to the right.
How many feet is that gonna be moved?
It's going to be moved to the right side of the front door. So if I go back to the, if I just go to the next, the other drawing. So let me just go to the- All right, so plan-wise, we're coming down straight in front of the doorway. So the retaining wall would be here, is where the retaining wall would be. And then there would be a sidewalk coming down from where the stairway is. There's a wall in front of here with landscaping, and the driveway is to the left. So the driveway would be in this vicinity here,
And how many feet will that be?
about 8.
So the idea is to keep a car in front of that wall?
Right. And then one in front of the garage door, or one in the garage and one in front of the garage door. So we have letters of support from 8 of the surrounding neighbors, which I can submit. And then, if you look at the neighborhood, most of the houses all have 2-lane driveways, especially on the cul-de-sac.
The only ones who will see that would be the people who are
People across the street.
across the street.
People on the cul-de-sac. So everybody on the cul-de-sac has a 2-lane driveway. They also, luckily have 2-car garages.
Okay, the letters are uniform letter from 15 Rock Ridge, 10 Rock Ridge, 11 Rock Ridge, 62 Rock Ridge, another one from 62 Rock Ridge, someone from 71 Rock Ridge, 10 Rock Ridge, and 15 Rock Ridge. In other words, looks like everybody from Rock Ridge is thrilled.
A very popular neighbor.
Yeah. Actually,
The Millers are also in the audience, so.
yeah, I mean, it's all the way at the end, so in order to find this change, you have to drive quite a bit. Off Main Rock Ridge, all the way down.
You have to basically make a wrong turn and end up in
Exactly. Exactly. The only way you'll get there is if you're lost, basically, or you know where you're
Or you
going.
know somebody there or you're lost.
Well, you know you're
There's
going.
two
Okay.
ways.
Uh,
I see this one.
I'm gonna ask you the typical question, you know that, I'm gonna ask, and that is, what would be an alternative possibility from what you've proposed?
Well, the alternative would have been to go to the left, but the problem with going to the left is the park cars, we still have to move them all.
Okay. And that's very tight.
It's tight anyway, and then you're also, they're afraid they're gonna be hitting the wall, because then you're gonna have two tall retaining walls
Yeah.
instead of a lower retaining wall.
Right, yeah,
And then you also have to maneuver, because you have to come and then shimmy over to get out.
right, yeah,
So that's why they were kind of not real thrilled with that concept.
okay. And you don't anticipate any draining issues by moving that wall? It's not gonna disturb anything that's already there?
We're not anticipating it. No. And it's also actually, this is a smaller impervious than if we had actually moved the driveway to the left and beyond the house, so it's actually less impervious by doing it this way.
And this is just for driveway, not for building, we're not, this is, doesn't include allowing them to build on that area, right?
Right, right. Jamie, do you have any concerns?
No, pretty straightforward.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of the application? Other than the applicants? Do you want to make a case stronger than John has already made? No, just repeat what he basically. Okay, best to leave it as is. Okay, anyone want to speak against this application? There being none no one in the audience and no letters or anything other than the massive ones in support. Can I have a motion to close the public
So
hearing?
moved. Second.
Okay, so fairly straightforward. Does it affect the character of the neighborhood? I don't think so. Would you say it's a substantial variance?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and self-created. All right, let me go ahead and read the resolution.
And you're not gonna read all 10 letters into the record, are you?
I just did, indirectly.
Okay.
Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Howard Miller and Melissa Miller, collectively the applicants for a variance in connection with the expansion of a driveway and widening of a parking area, along with the removal of front steps at driveway and recognition of reconfiguration, of entry steps with a retaining wall at property located at 4 Rock Ridge Drive in an R10 zoning district approximately 560 feet from the intersection of Bobby Lane and Rock Ridge Drive, designated and shown in the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 135.35-1-47, the property, and whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. Section 250-6, Section G, Item 1, Part D, Number 2, unenclosed off-street parking shall not be developed within 25 feet of a front line. The applicant's proposed driveway widening will result in an unclosed off-street parking within 25 feet of the property line. Therefore, a required setback variance of 25 feet is required. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on May 6, 2025, and closed on May 6, 2025, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. And whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concern, and upon considering each of the factors set forth in Section 250-13, Section G, Part 2, Items 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds for the variance above, the variance will not create any adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant. The requested variance is substantial, and the proposed variance will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variance is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicants have paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay? Ready to vote? Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations, John.
Thank you very much.
You're not coming back again tonight, are you?
I'm done.
Okay,
I think I'm
good.
done. I had half the meeting, I think I'm good.
Okay, good. Okay. The next application is application ZBA 25-008, Maxwell Buckley and Whitney Buckley, 31 Boxwood Place, installs 6-foot-high white PVC fence in front and side yards. Who's going to make the presentation? Oh, please come forward to the podium, introduce yourself.
My name is Max Buckley.
Flying solo, okay. Please make the case for the requested variance.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
You're speaking to the microphone.
sorry. So we were approved for a 6-foot fence within our backyard on two parts of the fence. However, the side of the fence that we were requesting the variance is the part of the backyard fence that goes up against Fairlawn Parkway, where I believe we were allowed to have a 4-foot fence. We're asking for an extra 2 feet so that the fence is symmetrical, and also for privacy, where you have 2 dogs and a baby on the way. So we were just asking for the extra 2 feet. And also, in looking at a few of the other houses around our house, we see 6-foot fences, and I think it would just be more attractive if we had a symmetrical fence all the same height.
Mr. Buckley, question. When you stated that you had previously been approved for the 6-foot on different parts of the fence.
Yes.
Was this section part of that request? And if not, why did you request only part and not the whole fence at that time?
So from my understanding, was the part that abuts Fairlawn Parkway is technically considered a front yard.
Front yard
Because
setback.
it's a corner lot.
Yeah,
Because
it's a corner lot.
So we're on Boxwood and Fairlawn.
It can see, basically has 2 front yards.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying is if it was requested previously I presume you requested a variance on the other sections previously, is that correct, or?
I don't
Because
think
you said
think
it
he
was
needed
approved.
it.
You
He
said it
didn't
was
need it.
approved.
We did not need.
He didn't
the-
need it.
Okay.
You need it for the back.
He didn't need it.
So the 6-foot, you have a 6-foot fence now? Is that in the
So we
backyard?
do not have, we have not constructed the fence yet, but we plan on building the 6-foot fence within, the house as is, does not have a fence.
So you would have 6 feet where you could, and then to be compliant, you would have 4 feet.
4 feet, correct.
But your address is.
The area
Boxwood.
now,
31 Boxwood, yes.
the area now on Fairlawn, there's dirt there now. Is that where the fence is gonna go?
Yes.
Right in that cleared area?
Correct, yes. So it would be, if the driveway is here, it would be to the right.
Right.
Of the driveway.
Now, I noticed the fence across the street is 6 feet and brown. You've chosen PVC,
Yes,
white, and you said you didn't want your dogs to jump over the fence?
yes.
What kind of dogs do you have?
That's what I was thinking.
We have a lab mix who can jump pretty high.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, if you had a 4-foot fence and a 2-foot, what's that? Lattice, yeah. If you had a 4-foot and a lattice, it would be visually less impactful. Have you thought of that as an option?
We have not.
Okay. The dog cannot jump through the lattice. Please come to the podium.
Sorry, my wife, my better half.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'd prefer the look of it to just be uniform, the same fence on all
The
sides.
problem with a 6-foot fence on a front yard, even though it's not technically a front yard, is it looks very imposing and almost prison-like.
Can I just ask, so the fence across the street, is that?
Solid
Is that the
wood.
same situation
But
as
why
a
is it a
corner lot?
6-foot fence across the street?
Yes.
It's a corner lot?
There's 2 actually
Yeah.
across the
Do,
street.
do we know how long that's been there, or do we know anything about that?
I don't recall from memory giving a variance for that, but I don't know how long it's been there.
Because if I could remind the board, we had this exact issue about 2 years ago off Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, I guess they were concerned about the privacy, and it was a corner lot like yours. And I think I think we were comfortable with the 4 foot, and then I think there was always be able to put trees behind it or something. And I'm trying to see how this is different, but I'm just wondering about the house across the street, you know, and how long that fence has been there. How long have you lived at this address?
We
I'm-
just bought the house in December.
No, I was
So-
just wondering, I was just curious, because I'm just trying to figure out that.
The other
House across the
issue
street.
with a corner lot is line of sight for a car. And one of the questions, I guess I'll ask Steve, how far back from the street curb will the fence be?
Yeah, well, the good thing about this particular variance request is that the fence where they want to extend it up 4 feet is all, the driveway fronts on Fairlawn, and the fence doesn't come anywhere near the corner. It's got to be at least 40 feet, 35 feet from the corner.
So it's not blocking.
So it
any
wouldn't be
view.
blocking, it would be no sign of light issues, you know, if you saw it.
Yeah, I saw that. I just want to make sure for the record that,
Because that was the issue with the other house.
Yeah, it was
Exactly,
blocking the
exactly.
view for people turning onto Lincoln.
Yeah.
No,
That was,
Yes, that was
yeah,
one
was
of the
issue.
issues.
because it was in the backyard.
Well, it was
It
the
was
same
a corner
thing.
lot,
corner
Corner
lot.
Corner
lot.
But it was the back, because the house faced Lincoln,
right.
and where they wanted the fence was not by Lincoln, it was the backyard.
It was a
So-
line of sight issue.
definitely-
Unless, if we're talking the same one.
We are,
same one.
we were, it was, I
Yeah.
remember
There was
that
a-
one.
The big issue was line of sight.
I only remember the fence in the back rectangle.
There was a hill, there was a
So
hill.
on the outside of the fence towards Fairline, is that
Yeah.
their property or is that village property, Steve?
Part of each, I think.
The Fairline, that's their property. The fence is not extending into the village right of way. It's on their
So
line.
there'll be grass and other stuff on the other side that you were responsible for. And if they put some greenery on that side, it makes
Yeah,
the
there's,
fence look a little
right
less
now,
imposing.
there's I guess 4 or 5 foot dirt.
Yeah, no, I'm looking
Yeah,
at the
that's
pictures.
there now. And I'm assuming the fence will go somewhere in there.
And then we
And then you're still responsible for maintaining the other side of it. So I guess the issue was, is there a way to soften?
Well, having them put bushes
That's
on the
a-
outside of the fence, it doesn't look like a prison fence.
Yeah,
That's an ARB
we don't
issue.
want it to look like a prison.
But what size fence? You're still talking about a 6-foot fence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just brought up the lattice because it would be a softer look
But-
from the street.
Well, it would
The
still be
main
6
issue,
feet.
as we were calling it with the other home, was a line of sight issue. That's not present here.
I agree.
So
I agree.
there is the benefit of uniformity of the fence, but the question, but at least from my perspective, the question is, again, softening how it looks.
Right.
And if we can do that, I think that removes to a large degree some of the
Why
objection
does
to
it
it.
have to go to, I mean, ARB can approve what they plant there, but why can't we require that they put something there?
I think we can.
Yeah, I think we can, yeah.
Is that acceptable to you?
For the extra height, yeah.
Because if they put arborvitae there, no one's gonna see the fence anyway.
Exactly.
Nothing prevents them from putting
It's
6
my
foot arborvitae
understanding there is nothing with that one that's directly across the street, the brown fence. It's just a
Correct.
wall of brown.
But I think we'd need to specify at least a minimum height on whatever.
Well,
plant
it's
they
gonna
make.
grow in,
It'll
they're
grow.
not
Yeah,
gonna.
but there are bushes that grow 1 foot, there's bushes that grow 5, you
No,
know.
but just.
Yeah, yeah. Minimally, that'll grow at the 3
That'll,
feet.
yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Let me just, what is it is reference to? Speak to the fence?
No, you said there's nothing other than a brown fence. There are trees planted along the brown fence.
On what side of the street?
View of the fence is softened by the trees.
Right,
Well, that's what we're talking about.
yeah, okay. I mean, the question, I guess, before us would be lattice versus full, and then vegetation on the other side, you know, so that's something that we have to,
I don't, I,
So,
go ahead.
so any house that does not have a visual impact on a corner can, I guess would be okay for a 6-foot fence?
no,
No.
each property is different.
Right, but, so I'm trying to see what makes this property,
Well, part of it is
Unique.
uniformity, in that
Right,
they-
right.
they've already, they're able to put up the 6 foot along the other side, and it won't look, it'll look odd without it.
but every house is able to put a 6-foot fence in the backyard. You're talking about the two sides. So I'm thinking about any corner. And again, I don't remember, like you four do, about that other house. I almost really do remember the concern was the backyard, and they were concerned about people, strangers
They had
coming
little,
in.
they had little children also,
Right.
they were
Yeah.
concerned.
Right, well, we have some on the way.
Yeah.
And so I don't see how that's different except for the neighbors across the street. That's the only difference that I see.
Well, I'm just looking at this application as it stands before us. And I don't think we set a uniform precedent regarding corner lots with 6-foot fences. We made a determination based on the factors that were present for that other application. And I think we should be adjudicating this application as is, and not say that we're creating a village-wide precedent for corner lots.
I think we say that, and every application is different. But I try to be consistent, and I'm trying to see how.
No, Glenn, you're raising a good point, is.
how this is different. And the only thing that I see different is the neighboring fences that are already there. That I don't know how long they were there. They certainly never came up before, because you see, I remember my fences. But that's really the only.
I
the only
mean,
difference
we'll
see.
often we'll grant the variances where there's some sort of hardship or some issue which plays into mitigating the rationale. And I hear what you're saying, is that really present here?
And if you have the backyard being 6 foot and the side being 4 foot along the whole side, how is that not really uniform? It's
Or it's not, if part of it is 6, part of it is 4, it's not
right, no,
uniform,
but the whole.
But that's their
the-
choice to do it.
Right,
that
but
way
the
if
whole
they do it that way.
backyard is gonna be 6 feet. If they put a fence in the
Yeah.
backyard, the whole side is gonna be 4.
See, initially, I thought that they had the 6 foot up
That-
already.
That's what it sounded
Right,
like.
yeah, yeah,
That's what it sounded like.
which may have been better if you had, but.
Right. Right, it sounded like they already got a variance and they had part of the
Right,
fence
right,
up.
right.
But I'm not sure where that came from. That doesn't, I didn't understand that. But, I mean, that's just my concern.
And there are alternatives for them, such as using a lattice, above the fencing, instead of doing 6 feet, do a 4 foot of a fence, and then a lattice on top of that.
Well, but it's still 6 feet.
It's still 6 feet. It doesn't,
So you would still need, I would imagine if it's lattice or if it's solid, you're gonna still need a variance if it's 6 feet in total,
Right.
correct?
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the design is,
Still-
it's
still
just
6
lattice
feet.
instead of solid.
Still 6
It's
feet.
still 6
so
feet.
what's, if it's privacy and safety, I understand.
Yeah, I saw those pictures.
And your crazy lab, which I have one too, so,
I see what you're saying.
I know.
It's just a design.
What stops it from a 4 foot fence and having like a dense arborvitae's behind it?
They're worried about the dog jumping through the trees, which.
But you
not-
still have the 4 foot fence.
But you could put a 6-foot fence and still get the arborvitae there, so the issue is what it looks like on the outside.
Well, I'm thinking about what it looks like to keep the 4 foot fence with the arborvitae's and keep it without needing a variance.
Yeah, arborvitae will take a couple of years to get to 6 feet.
Oh,
All right, that's our discussion.
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of this application? Anyone want to speak against the application? Please come forward. What?
I'll speak in favor.
Okay. Please state your name and your relationship to the applicant.
I'm actually the architect that did the renovation for the plans for their house. And I'm not familiar exactly totally with this. So now, the concept here, I know you were talking about Lincoln Avenue with the variance, and I did do that. So, and I have my computer. So, that one.
Use the mic when you can.
Okay. So I actually.
He's new to this.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this. So, so that one was on the corner of Sunset and Lincoln.
Yes.
So we screened with a 6-foot fence, the backyard was 6 foot, and then as soon as we got on the Sunset side, at the backyard of the side of the house, we dropped it to 4.
Yeah.
And then they did lattice on top of the stone wall that was in the front of the house to keep it, and then we did gates on the driveway. And then we had to do landscaping between the road and the 6-foot fence on Sunset to soften the
You
fence.
could have said that before. You would have made him happier.
And John, the Lincoln
And I
Avenue.
believe the fence was green, I believe.
The
But I
Lincoln
thought you said
Avenue
it
is
wasn't
the,
6 foot on Sunset.
It was 6 foot at the backyard.
The backyard.
Because the backyard's a corner, so they went across
Right.
the whole back at 6, the side of Sunset at 6 for the backyard only.
So
And
that's,
then it dropped at the side of the house
And,
and all the way to the corner.
and that was because of a line of sight issue.
So we had to get the variance because the rear yard was supposed to be 4, not 6. Because the problem is that when you're on the corner, this whole side's supposed to be 4 and back this way to
Right.
4 until you hit
Right.
your 30-foot setback.
so the backyard portion on Sunset was 6
It
feet?
was 6 foot. And then we had to do landscaping along the Sunset.
So we gave the variance to that?
I believe that's what you gave.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. I think it was this is what I remember. I think it was 4 foot, and we maybe, I'm not remembering the stone wall.
I remember the
But I kind of remember one of the few that, I thought, I don't think I voted yes for that. And as much as I love kids and dogs and everything, but I think I remember
Glenn.
the trees behind that.
So for a corner lot, you don't have a backyard. You have 2 fronts and 2
Correct.
sides.
Right.
You're allowed to go up to 6 feet in the side yard. So as a right. So if it is in the actual side yard, back past the front foundation of the house on that side, you can be up to 6 foot. Now, once you come past the front foundation wall on either side of that house, that's when it becomes a variance is needed, where it has to drop down to 4 feet.
So in the backyard on Sunset, it could be 6 feet?
Yes.
Because it,
Yeah, as long as you're past the
To
front.
back to the front yard setback on the side. So
Right.
if you came up the side street, you'd have to come 30, then you go to 6.
But-
You go to 6 this way until you hit the 30 from the front. Because as soon as you're on the street sides, you've got to be at 4 feet.
But I want to, just pulling us kind of back to the present situation.
Yeah.
I think what we're really looking at is there a mitigating factor here? And the only potentially mitigating factor that we've heard is they have 2 very high-spirited dogs who are very capable of, apparently, of leaping a 4-foot fence. So the question is going to be, is that enough of a mitigating factor to warrant the variance or not?
and the neighbor's fence that's already there.
Fence,
neighborhood.
Fences, plural.
Fences, right. That, I think I would put that in to
Okay.
that mix as well.
So could you approach the bench again?
Approach the bench.
Sorry.
Hanging out with lawyers too long.
And just relate to us exactly how many of these 6-foot fences are in that intersection. I remember just seeing one, but you mentioned that there was more than one. So can you please tell us where they are?
One is at 52 Law Ridge Drive, which is across the street from the front door of Boxwood. It's on the corner of Boxwood and Law Ridge, but that backs up to Fairlawn Parkway.
Yeah, that house has 3 fronts. Even the rear yard is on the front, is on the street.
And the other one is directly across, the brown fence directly across.
That's the one I remember seeing, okay. Okay, so then, at this intersection, there will be 3 fenced-in areas? Is that a correct statement that I'm making?
Yes,
Okay. And they're all 6 feet? Or they will, this one would add to the 6 feet?
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you, thank you. Anyone want to speak against the application? Please come forward. State your name and your address, please.
Ken Pinsker, 64 Country Ridge Drive. I'm the immediate behind 31 Boxwood resident. I'm not speaking against it. There's a middle ground here, I believe.
Okay.
I would like to get some more information about this fence and the exact position of the fence. I don't know whether or not there's going to be a fence between our houses and how that would impact me. And I also wonder what kind of surveying was done in terms of the fence. And the reason that I bring this up is that while walking the other day, I noticed that a flowering tree that I had, at least I thought was on my property for about 30 years, was gone, and there was just a pile of wood chips. Now it's possible that it was on their property. And I hate to start this way because I wish you the best. My daughter actually was the one who said, "Where's the tree?" So if it's an honest mistake, it's an honest mistake. If it's actually on their property, then I have nothing more to say. But it's possible that the position of the fence needs to be looked at again. I did speak to Mr. Nowick about the application to take down the tree. The tree was said to be diseased, but the photographs I have of the tree, and usually every spring I take pictures of things, it's a beautiful, or was a beautiful tree. So that's why I'm here, not against it,
Right.
but to just make sure that the fence ends at their property and anything that goes, between the two properties is in the right position.
So, right now, you're the direct neighbor.
I'm directly in back,
Behind.
right.
Okay, is there a fence there now?
No, there are just a row of trees that Mrs. Annis, the former resident, and myself planted somewhere between 1976 and 1980.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you please come back up here and clarify for me, are those trees going to be inside your fence or outside your fence when the fence goes up?
Excuse me, and I do have the, block and lot and the survey information. I can't really read it, I'm not a surveyor.
Yeah, one good thing is we have the building inspector and Mr. Nowak are both experts in that area, so
Right, okay.
when the fence goes in, somebody will look at it as built to make sure.
Is that fence our issue, though?
It's not.
No, we're just,
He just wants to,
yeah,
not our
just,
issue.
okay, thank you. Can you please come up and just address that? So are you gonna be adding a fence on that side?
Yes.
Okay, and just give us, are those trees gonna be inside the fence on your property or outside the fence?
So you're referring to I don't know the exact species of trees, but the pine trees?
Series of very large pine trees, and on your side, they've been pruned.
Yes.
On my side, or the side that faces my house, they've not been pruned. So somebody made a decision about working on those trees. We were in Florida, we were never notified about any of this, and the first time I knew about it was when the sign for the variance came up and we walked by.
We should have gotten a notice in the mail.
So,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
please, the trees are gonna be inside or outside? Obviously, they're yours because you pruned them.
So so I guess they would be on the outside we would not fence in the trees.
So the trees, okay, good, all right, thank you, I just needed that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who want to speak against the application? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, so, as we said, the issues before us, there's Glenn's precedent issue, you know, I guess that's one. The other one is a 6-foot fence, yes, a 6-foot fence, yes with lattice, or no 6-foot fence. So,
Or a 6-foot fence with mandatory landscaping.
well, yeah, that, I think that would be a given. I totally would agree with that. So, anyone want to chime in on any of those issues? The applicant has a preference for a solid 6-foot fence.
If we're doing vegetation, which I presume we all want
Yes.
to, I don't think the styling of the fence then makes a major difference.
That's a mitigating factor,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay. Or how about Glenn's concerns?
There are legitimate concerns, clearly. My take, I think, as I'm sitting here right now, is that, as you said, each property is looked at individually, and this one has enough mitigating factors in my mind that to me, leans in favor of granting the variance.
Okay. Steve, do you have any?
Well, the other one was on Lincoln, which is a bigger problem than.
Yeah.
And safety is an issue for your family as well as everybody else's.
And I think the dogs are, to some degree, an issue.
It's a safety issue
Yeah.
too, for them, as
Yeah.
well as the cars.
Yeah.
I would not want to see the fence go up without required vegetation that gets maintained, because to soften the look. I mean, this gentleman was saying that there were trees on the fence across the street. I'd certainly want it not just to be sparse, but, I mean, I got, all the houses around me have these 30-foot tall arborvitae everywhere, so.
Yeah, I would think the trees would have to go on the outside.
On the outside,
Because
if it's-
we're concerned about the neighbors and
I'm
the-
concerned about it looking like a prison.
But I think, well, we're not gonna specify the type of tree.
No.
I think we need to specify minimum height upon planting and minimum height that it can grow to.
Capable of growing,
Capable
yeah.
of growing to.
My biggest concern when I saw the application was line of sight and, you know, adequacy for cars at the intersection.
Sure.
And visiting the site, I was comfortable.
Yeah,
I was
that doesn't
comfortable.
appear to be an
And
issue.
also that this fence is inside their property, it's not right on their property versus village line, it's what, a couple feet in, right?
Right, right. They're giving up basically part of their lawn as part of that, because they're not bringing it right up to the line.
I think it is on that line.
That-
The way it's shown on the survey, I think.
Well, that's then they can't plant on village
I was just
property.
saying with to Bob, if you gonna condition that they do trees, then maybe they would have to pull the fence back a little bit. You know, a foot, 18 inches, I don't know,
To enable the
to-
planting.
So it's not in the village right away, it's on their,
Yes.
trees are on their property, they have to maintain.
So the building inspector is saying, do not plant trees on village property.
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying you said that. No, I mean,
No,
people
you're
do.
asking- You're asking
People
if
do.
it's if the trees are gonna be on their line. I'm saying that the fence is on their line. And if the trees are gonna be in front of the fence, then it's gonna be in the village right of way. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm saying, and?
So if you're conditioning that the trees be planted on their property, then they would need to pull the fence in.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're not advertising people to plant trees on village property.
We're not.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's saying the
You know,
opposite.
in the future, yeah, in the future.
He's saying the opposite.
Yes. Okay, so you heard that,
Yes.
all right? So,
And my recommendation would be 24-inch planting height, minimum 48-inch growth potential.
you got that, Bob?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The arborist on the board.
No, but, you know, otherwise you can get somebody
We don't
plants
want
something
little mini
6 inches
boxwoods.
tall, and, you know.
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
All right. So are we okay then with, Glenn, you have not chimed in here. Is your concern enough for you to change a vote from yes to no?
Which he can.
Yeah, he has a right to do
He has a right to do that.
I didn't vote yet, so there's nothing for me to change yet.
No, but
Right.
But it's a moving target, so
Right.
are you okay? Because we were
Do you have any questions,
basically,
or
we're basically saying, you know, it's not a concern.
Yeah,
but
the The fact that there's line of sight issues, not a problem. I always try to be consistent. If anything moves me to saying yes, to be honest, it would be because there's already two fences there. Other than that, I kind of feel I would be disingenuous by I don't see anything different really from, that I remember from the Lincoln house, but those two fences there, I think does move me a little bit.
Okay, all right.
And the
all right.
lab.
Let me go through the 5 factors then. Do you feel it will impact the character of the neighborhood?
No,
Not with the plantings, I
not with
don't
the
think.
plantings.
Okay. Do you think this is the benefits the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think I can do.
Cannot, then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The requested variance is substantial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Self-created, yes, and will not have an environmental impact, right? Okay. Okay, any other issues that want to air out before we take a vote? Okay, let me read the resolution. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Maxwell Buckley and Whitney Buckley, collectively the applicants, for a variance in connection with the installation of a 6-foot-high white PVC fence along the front and side yard at property located at 31 Boxwood Place in an R15 zoning district at the intersection of Fairlawn Parkway and Boxwood Place, designated and shown in the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 129.59-1-27, the property. Whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. 1, Section 250-6, Part B, Item 3, Part A, the maximum allowable fence height in a front yard is 4 feet. The applicant's proposal calls for a 6-foot fence to be installed within the front yard at the Fairlawn Parkway frontage. Therefore, a fence height variance of 2 feet is requested. Whereas the duly advertised public hearing was held on May 6, 2025, and closed on May 6, 2025, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. And whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concern, and upon considering each of the factors set forth in Section 250-13, Section G, Part 2, Items 2A, 3 of the Rybrook Code, finds for the variance above the 5 factors that I just articulated a moment ago, so I won't read them again. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicants have paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Now, Bob, you've heard the wisdom of the board. Have you concocted another?
Sure. So the applicant shall provide adequate screening to minimize the imposition of the fence. That screening should be 24 inches in planting height, not to exceed 48 inches in growth potential.
No, it can exceed 48, not, minimum 48 inches in growth. So it can be taller. Yeah.
At least 48.
Yeah.
And not planted on village property.
And on the exterior of the fence.
Okay.
Yeah, exterior side of the fence.
Okay. And also, before we take a vote, Steve, the neighbors' concern about the survey issues, is there going to be an as-built, someone going to go out there and verify that the
Property
fence
line.
is on the proper property?
Yes, there's always a final as-built survey, a new survey required from every fence application. And if the fence is shown to be on someone else's property, it has to be moved.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
okay, that should satisfy the neighbor's concern about the survey. At least he doesn't have to pay for it. Secondly, with respect to village engineer Michael Nowak, if he deems a tree to be diseased, you know, we concur with that decision. Okay? All right, let's take a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joe? Yes.
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved, 5 yeses, 0 nays. Congratulations. Thank you for your interjection there, John.
You're welcome.
Appreciated your database.
There you go.
So how about I take my computer with me?
Hey, John.
Okay.
Oh.
Me too.
Thank you. Next application, application ZBA 25-009, Felix Diaz and Jocelyn Diaz, 10 Maple Court, construct attached garage and mudroom addition. Okay. Please state your name, address, and nature of your relationship to the applicant.
Fred Grippy from RMG Associates, the architect for Mr. and Mrs. Diaz, 10 Maple Court. We're proposing to build a garage and mudroom addition on the right side of the house, and in doing so, we're requesting a 2.3 foot variance, where 10 foot is required, and we're coming out, but it's gonna be 7 foot, 7.7 feet. We're also asking for a gross variance for gross floor area of 67 square feet, which is about 2.4% over the required gross floor area. The existing house, if you look at the existing plans, it has absolutely no storage space at all in the house. Doesn't have a garage, doesn't have a laundry room, doesn't have any attic space. So they're in, desperate need of a garage and some kind of storage space and a mudroom, so when you come into the house. If you look at all the photographs of the neighbors in the area, if you drive down Maple and Maple Court, everybody else has a parking structure of some kind. They're the only house that doesn't have, a garage on the property.
Okay.
I think the variances are pretty minimal to relieve their hardship, and I don't think it's a negative impact on the neighborhood. Matter of fact, I think it enhances the house to have a garage like everybody else does on the right-hand side of the house. There's no place else to put the garage, and there's really no place else to put the mudroom, so this is the solution we came up with. The garage is pretty small, it's minimal.
Is the proposed construction going to align completely with the side of the house? The mudroom in the back of the garage or on the side of the garage?
The garage bumps out a little bit in the front, but it still meets the front yard setback.
Right.
And,
So it's going to be the whole length of the side of the house?
no, it's shorter in the back. It
Shorter in the-
doesn't go the whole length of the back of the house.
So you decided not to align it with the front of the house?
Why?
Well, just, so we can get a gable roof on it, and, it was really an aesthetic, reason. Just to come out a little bit and have to get a gable roof on the front rather than having a straight roof going all the way across the front of the house. I think it looks a lot nicer aesthetically to have a little gable there. Just projects out a little bit, just enough to give it that detail.
Now, if I were to say, deal with this objection, why does it have to be as wide as it is and impact the side yard setback as much as it is?
Well, if it's not that wide, you're not getting a car in there. I mean, that's pretty the minimum size of a garage to get a car in and open.
So the width of the garage is what? How many
It's,
feet?
Well, it's like 11 feet. It's 11 feet on the outside, which is about maybe 10 and a half on the inside.
Okay.
which is-
No, I always ask that
Yeah, I know,
question.
I know.
Is this the smallest side?
Yeah, it's a small, I mean, if we didn't have this situation, we would have made the garage 12, 15 feet if we could,
Right, exactly. yeah.
Because most one-car garages are at least 12 feet, so this is pretty tight, But we didn't really want to ask for more than that, because then I thought we'd be, going over what,
Right.
you'd approve.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Yeah. Okay, is there any, excuse me, is there anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone? Oh. Okay. Do you want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak against the application? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Public hearing is closed, okay. I guess my question then would be the size of the variances. Do you consider them significant, insignificant?
No,
I think, yeah, that GFA's,
Okay, the GFA is certainly not.
nope.
The question is, the side yard?
It's 20%.
So-
Percentage?
Yeah, I guess
Could be.
percentage-wise, you
Yeah,
have to.
numerically,
Numerically, you have to.
Yeah.
numerically it's significant,
Yeah.
okay, but it will not affect the character of the neighborhood. No issues with respect to environmental conditions? No? Okay. All right, let's see. Glenn, you okay with everything on this? I am. Steve?
Yep.
Okay with everything? Okay. Let me read the resolution. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Felix Diaz and Jocelyn Diaz, collectively the applicants, for variances in connection with the proposed construction of an attached garage and mudroom addition at property located at 10 Maple Court in an R10 zoning district, approximately 400 feet from the intersection of Beacon Lane and Maple Court, designated and shown on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 135.6-1-72 of the property. Whereas the applicants seek relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. Number 1, Section 250-22, Part G, Item 2, Section A, the minimum required single side yard setback is 10 feet. The applicant's proposed attached garage and mudroom addition will result in a single side yard setback of 7.77 feet, thereby requiring a variance of 2.33 feet. And secondly, a Section 250-22, Part E, the maximum allowable gross floor area is 2,791.3 square feet. The applicant's proposed attached garage and mudroom addition will result in a gross floor area of 2,858 feet, thereby requiring a variance of 66.68 square feet. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on May 6, 2025, and closed on May 6, 2025, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly, no further environmental review is required. Whereas the board from the application, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, and upon considering each of the factors set forth at Section 250-13, Section G, Part B, Items 2A3 of the Rybrook Code, finds for the variances above, as I indicated for the 5 factors going through before, so I won't read them again. Now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby provisionally granted on the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicants have paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay?
Don, question?
Yes.
Since the garage extends forward, do we need anything preventing them from bringing any other part of the house forward?
Only building on top of it. No, because it's within the bulk standards, the front yard setback, yeah, okay. Right, okay, ready to take a vote? Steve?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Don, yes, application approved, 5 yeses, 0 nays. Okay, congratulations. Don't forget to start building within the required time limit, please.
It's a year.
Yep.
You want to get going sooner than that.
Okay, all right. Congratulations. Okay,
And there's the April summary.
yes. Last item, looking at the April summary, by the way, this was, we gave everybody everything today, huh? We're very good. Okay.
I was brilliant at the April meeting, I have to say.
Yes,
So was I.
in your absentia. Jamie, Glenn, okay?
Yeah,
Okay, so the April summary is approved. Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
So moved. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
I'll let everybody know, but I may not be here for the June.
I will not, I know I will not be here for June.
Oh, I might have an issue too.
You know what, when you guys do this, you put so much pressure on the three that might be here. Now I-
Well,
No, because now I can't, like,
I'm
I
out of
can't be
town.
wishy-washy.
I'm out of
We
town
have-
at the
we
June
have-
meeting.
One more time.
You in town for June?
I'm probably will not be.
we have anything?